Hello everyone and welcome to the Student Union Hustings for the Sabbatical Officers. I'm Robert McElwraith, I use he, him pronouns and I'll be chairing this discussion. This hustings is for the role of the Vice President for Graduates, which is a sabbatical position in which the elected candidate will serve for a year and the position is paid. Just to inform you of the structure of these hustings, the candidates will each start with an opening address for which they'll be given 2 minutes. We'll be moving in alphabetical order based on the candidates' first names. After that, we will move on to your questions, which the Student Union have very kindly provided us with, where the candidates will each have 1 minute to answer 2 of your questions, and they'll be answering the same questions for that section. After that, we'll finally move on to my questions, where I've prepared 2 questions for each of the candidates. I'll ask 1 question first to each of the candidates, again, alphabetically, and then I'll ask my second question to each of the candidates, again, alphabetically, and they'll have 1 minute to answer all of those questions as well. I am going to be strict on the timings and candidates will be muted if they go over the allotted time. You can find out more about the election, the SU, and read the candidates' manifestos by going to oxford.su.org/leadership election, which is also where you can vote when voting opens on Tuesday the 9th at 8 AM. Without further ado, we'll move on to the introductions. And Bella, if you'd like to start with your 2-minute introduction, please.
Right, so hello everyone. My name is Bella Chan and I use she, her pronouns. So I'm currently doing Master of Science in Applied Linguistic and Second Language Acquisition at St. Cross University of Oxford. So staying in Oxford for about 4 months, I was actually amazed of how strong our community is and has been in tackling this whole COVID-19 pandemic. But honestly, what I was expected was to find in Oxford was something completely different from this year's reality. And I know that out there, so many of you or master's students and PhD students also lost your once-in-a-lifetime Oxford experience. So this year, I'm running to become VP graduates, and I hope to fight for the rights of all graduate students at the University of Oxford who are the indirect victims of this frightening pandemic. So I put down the manifesto that addresses all the challenges and hardships that 11,000 graduate students as well as 8,000 international students are facing. And if I'm elected, I promise to put the greatest effort to bring this issue to the attention of the university to make sure that no one will be left behind in this battle. And I believe that if we in this together, we'll get through this together. And the main objective that I advocate that I will advocate on behalf of this year's students will focus on funding, career development, and mental health. So in terms of funding, I think the university should introduce the funded on-site intensive programs that allow prospective alumni to return to Oxford within the next 5 years, because as you might know, all of us might have at some point lost our Oxford experience, and we all deserve some opportunities in the future. The university has done a lot so far, in terms of tackling with the pandemic, but we do, as graduate students, deserve future opportunities.
I'm very sorry, Bella, but that is your time. We will now move on to Bethan. Thank you very much, Bella. Bethan, you also have 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you so much. So I'm Bethan and I am currently running for VP graduates at the SU. I'm running on a platform of A, B, C: accessibility, better student support, and COVID considerations. Accessibility is about making sure that all prospective students are able to apply to Oxford. It is also about ensuring that university resources are equally available to all. My priorities in this area include increasing funding availability and making sure that university resources are accessible online. Additionally, I want to improve housing opportunities and international student community. Better academic and welfare support for postgraduate students is vitally important right now. Welfare and mental health resources cannot be dictated by undergraduate term times. I will represent postgraduate voices and ensure that the diverse needs of the postgraduate student community are taken into account during all university decisions. The current impact of the pandemic has been devastating for students. An NUS study recently showed that 74% of students were worried about their final qualification. I will work with the SU and the university to respond flexibly to the pandemic and make sure that the long-term effects are taken into account. My priority is ensuring that the university responds to the needs of postgraduate students rather than infection rates, and that the impact on degrees is as minimal as possible. So why me? I've spent nearly 4 years in Oxford now, both as an undergraduate and a postgraduate. I know how this university works, and I really care about the students here. My past experience has given me an all-encompassing view of university life and policy, which means that I best understand how to implement change. The purpose of the SU is to protect and listen to all students. I'm a responsive leader who has always worked hard to promote student voices. I believe that I am the best candidate to bring graduate students through this difficult period and to readjust to normal education, making sure that no student is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bethan. Sinead, you also have 2 minutes to give your opening statement.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Robert. I'll be reading if you don't mind. The reason why I'm running is because I just don't believe that the system prioritizes our well-being, and that's what I'm running to change. I want an agile, accountable Oxford that's focused on 3 things: the people, the planet, and putting power back in your hands. And I promise to work with other elected sabbatical officers to allow humanity to permeate the system, because we're smart and we're capable individuals, and we're here because of that. But sometimes Oxford hides behind this reputation, and it makes us feel like we need to suffer to stay here. And I just say like a resounding no to that. So what does a university like that look like? It's university departments and colleges that are quick to address concerns, reflect on their own positive and negative contributions to the challenges that we as graduates face. They respect our own sacrifices through transparency around finances and course decision making. And they think consistently about graduate struggles, making specific provision for BAME, LGBTQ, international, or even parent graduates or graduates with disabilities. It also means colleges that just stop making excuses about taking responsibility for the environment right now. And that's really something important to me, to connect halls to their gardening societies and promote reduce, reuse, recycle cultures. And, you know, in terms of power, the last point, it's being appraised of the situation as it pertains to you. It means you have agency, you can make decisions, and that you have certainty and comfort. It also means having support structures at your disposal because you face certain challenges because of your race, sex, ethnicity, nationality, sexuality, you know, a whole bunch of different things. So why can you count on me? I have more life experience than any of the other candidates. And as a queer African woman of color who's often mistaken for a teenage boy, it's true, I straddle many.
I'm very sorry, Sinead. I'm going to have to stop you there. That is your 2 minutes. Charlotte, you also have 2 minutes to give your opening statement.
Thank you, Robert. It's an honor to be here. Like most of you, I've dreamt of coming to Oxford my whole life, but let's be honest, because of coronavirus, it's been disappointing. We worked so hard to get here, dreaming of candlelit dinners and magical libraries, only to have those dreams shattered and replaced with national lockdowns and online lectures. Despite these challenges, I also see opportunities. I believe that amidst the disruptions of the pandemic, the SU can refocus its mission for graduates. My vision prioritizes realistic wants and needs of grads. It minimizes time wasting and maximizes the Oxford experience. I have a 4-pillar plan to make sure that graduates don't just have a place at Oxford, they have a home. First, community. Colleges are the traditional Oxford social hub, but for grads, academic departments play a much larger role. I want to bridge the gap between departments to expand social and professional networks for graduates on every corner of the academic map. Second, care. University-level mental health services are designed for undergrads, but the needs of graduate students differ considerably. For one, counseling is only available during term time, even though grads are here year-round. I will fight to expand mental health services for our community. Third, communication. As students with busy schedules, we need streamlined information. As VP, I will create a centralized, grad-specific website that keeps everything we need to know in one place, which sounds like it already exists, but it doesn't. I checked. And finally, COVID. I will fight to eliminate unnecessary fees and advocate for extending MCR membership for current students. As a policy student, class representative, and MCR social secretary, I'm ready and eager to be your voice at the student union. Remember to vote Charlotte, because Densmore does more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. And finally, Davica, if you could give your opening statement, and you also have 2 minutes for that. Thank you.
Dear Oxonians, we hear a lot about the Oxford experience, but COVID has changed that for all of us. I want to provide you the Oxford experience you deserve. There is a lot that I will do to ensure that, but my 3 key aims are centered on making sure graduate, non-traditional and international students are well integrated in the community and thereby better taken care of by the university. For integration in a system that is rather focused on the undergrads, while postgraduates constitute half of it, I intend to strengthen communication, so graduates do not miss out on social and academic opportunities. Also organize and promote intercollegiate, undergraduate, and departmental collaborations and projects. The system that lends us to believe that one size fits all, when even within postgraduates, there are differences. Same goes for international and non-traditional students who often get sidelined. I will work hard to ensure that we tailor our welfare to those we support. For example, student carer exclusive peer supporters, centralized mailing lists for DPhils who currently get all the data dump. The uniform approach is unfair for all of us. Finally, in terms of financial support, our fees do not reflect the contemporary realities of COVID and the world after Brexit. I will strongly advocate for a free restructuring while campaigning for more grants for graduates, international and non-traditional students. I will work with the university to ensure financial accountability by creating centralized, accessible financial data. I am Davica, and I'm the candidate you should elect as your VP graduates because I haven't been here for just 4 months. As a postgraduate, rather, I have dedicated all of my 1.5 years at Oxford to student welfare and advocacy. My track record in roles as BM officer, committee member, peer supporter, and more shows that. I should be a vice president because I have the experience and passion to push my ideas through. I want to give you the Oxford experience you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Davica. Thank you all for your opening addresses. We will now move on to the questions from the Oxford student community for each of you. As before, we will go in alphabetical order, and you will each have for this 1 minute to give your answers. So the question is, what do you think needs to be done to improve the graduate student experience at Oxford? We'll be starting with Bella, and you have 1 minute.
Thank you for your question. So in my opinion, as per this year, the graduate students have actually lost a lot of experience that they deserve. So firstly, in terms of academic, then graduate students deserve more opportunity to attend intensive programs where they can have more like face-to-face sessions, study with their lecturers, with their professors. In terms of networking, students should be provided with more chance to network within and outside of their social cycles, where they get to know people from other colleges through networking events, not only in Oxford, but also outside Oxford as well. So I advocate the university to provide more support like during post-COVID period. Yeah, so that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bella. Bethan, just to repeat the question, what do you think needs to be done to improve the graduate student experience at Oxford? Bethan, you have 1 minute.
Thank you for the question. I think there are several things that we can think about regarding graduate experience at Oxford. Firstly, what I want to do is make sure that we link up MCRs for both welfare and social life in order to kind of try and increase that sense of a postgraduate community, in particular for international students who might be here all year round. I would also be encouraging student groups and organisations to really consider including graduate students explicitly. Often when you try and sign up for different groups and organizations, even on the form, it won't have an option for graduate students. And it's just one of those small things which maybe doesn't make the graduate student experience feel as inclusive as it could. I also think it's important that things like welfare and accommodation at colleges don't always just follow undergraduate term times for graduate students, because we have researchers, we have parents and carers, we have students living here full time. And thirdly, just in the coming year, making sure that students are kind of
I'm so sorry, Bethan. I'm going to have to stop you. That is your 1 minute. Shanae, and just a reminder again, the question was, what do you think needs to be done to improve the graduate student experience at Oxford? Shanae, you have 1 minute.
Thanks, Robert. I think that it's actually, although we live in a very complex system, I think that it's quite simple. The challenges will always be changing, but what we need is transparency, so accountability, openness, and just a receptiveness and a responsiveness to feedback. And that's what I think would improve the graduate experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shanae. Charlotte, and again, question is, what do you think needs to be done to improve the graduate student experience at Oxford? You again have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. The biggest thing that students talked about when I talked to them about what their concerns were as far as the graduate experience so far was disconnect. And I don't think that's a COVID unique issue. The fact that 64% of graduate students are international means we're coming from all over the world. And a lot of us probably didn't get to be here undergrad, which are very fortunate if you did. But now we're here as graduates and we feel like we're so far apart, maybe not so connected to our college systems, and often living off campus. So the biggest thing we can do in this unique position from the student union is foster these connections. We can go to departments, we can go to course reps, we can start this community and this network and draw on the strengths that already exist within the grad community and foster the connections that people want so badly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Davica, again, the question is, what do you think needs to be done to improve the graduate student experience at Oxford? Davica, you have 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I feel sad for my peers who joined this year because I know that I'm the only candidate who actually experienced postgraduate life before COVID started. And one thing that I also draw on from my candidate Charlotte's words is that Oxford is made by the people. The building, the spires are amazing, but it is the people and the community who make Oxford Oxford. And for that, again, strengthening communication, strengthening community ties, and that can be done by strengthening networks between colleges, departments, between undergrads and postgrads. And I'm sure we can do that by virtual events and multiple other policies. The other thing is welfare for graduates. I feel the university somehow feels that graduates don't need as much welfare support as undergrad because we are adultier adults, especially DPhils, student carers, and so on. So just ensuring that graduates know that they have access to these welfare support. And we can ensure that through welfare packs, resource packs, and again, tailored welfare. Always, one size does not fit all, and all graduates need their individual care. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Davica. That is your time. Okay, we will now move on to the second question that was submitted by Oxford students. And again, we will go in alphabetical order. And again, you will each have 1 minute for this question. The question is, with your place on the Race Equality Task Force, what do you plan to do? We'll be starting with Bella. Bella, you have 1 minute.
Sorry, Robert, can you repeat the question? My connection just went really bad.
Yeah, that's not a problem. So the question is, with your place on the Race Equality Task Force, what do you plan to do?
So did you mention to Race Equality Task Force?
That's right. So the Race Equality Task Force that you'd have a place on as part of the role as Vice President for Graduates.
Yeah, so thank you so much for your question. So my answer for this question would be, if I'm a part of the Race Equality Task Force, then so can you please explain about the question a little bit more? I'm not too sure if I hear it right. So do you mean the race equality?
Sorry about this. One of the perils of doing these on Teams. So as part of the role, you're on a number of committees and subcommittees, etc. And one of those under the SU is the Race Equality Task Force, which handles issues around race and ethnicity. So the question is, with your role on this committee, on this task force, what would you plan to do?
Thank you for your question, and I'm so sorry, my connection just went really bad. I didn't hear the question fully. So if my question is if I'm a part of the Race Equality Task Force. So firstly, I feel like a part of the reason why I really enjoy Oxford, and I know that a lot of other graduate students come to Oxford, is because of the sort of like the racial and ethnic diversity that are represented in the Oxford community. And if I'm a part of the Race Equality Task Force, I'll firstly make sure that all the race or the racial groups are represented equally, fairly under the university policies. And I also ensure that there will be more opportunities for people from age groups, underrepresented groups as well, are having opportunity to speak. Their voice will be heard by the university as well as all other relevant bodies. Thank you.
Thank you, Bella. We'll now move on to Bethan with the same question, which is, with your place on the Race Equality Task Force, what do you plan to do? Bethan, you have 1 minute.
Hi, thank you for the question. So I have several points which I think would be helpful on the Race Equality Task Force. Firstly, ensuring that funding and scholarships apply to minority students and that the university is investing in these. For example, the recent Black Academic Futures scholarships is a great example, and I really think that these need to be pushed more and pushed for postgraduate students in particular. I also think that there needs to be better support and specialist welfare for minority students, which considers the impacts of racism and discrimination at the university. Thirdly, I want to bring up the recent NUS decolonisation push, which I know that has been discussed a lot at the university, and I would put my voice behind this and make sure that decolonisation of postgraduate curriculums are also is also happening alongside decolonising undergraduate curriculums. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bethan. Okay, Shanae, if you'd like to answer this question, which again is, with your place on the Race Equality Task Force, what do you plan to do? You have 1 minute.
So I would plan to do two things. I'd like for students who encounter challenges like microaggressions, in which you're often questioning yourself on whether you've experienced the entire incident correctly. You need someone that you can go to, and that the kind of chain of reporting that is clear. And so I want that for graduates. I want them to know where they can go. And the other thing is I want to promote sensitization workshops with course lecturers, administrators, so working with departments to actually solve and change the system. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Shanae. Charlotte, if you'd like to answer this question next. Again, it is, with your place on the Race Equality Task Force, what do you plan to do? You have 1 minute.
Sure, thank you so much. So there's three main things I'd like to talk about. So the first is, like Bethan mentioned, decolonizing the curriculum is extremely important. There's a huge push for this in undergraduate curricula, but not so much in the postgraduate realm. So partnering with the NUS and with the existing push to decolonize the curriculum, I think is really important, because Oxford is a beacon of academia and therefore has a really important role in setting curricula at other institutions as well. Additionally, I think we should advocate for the removal of statues like the Cecil Rhodes statue on campus. I'm uniquely positioned to do this because I've actually provided policy analysis on the removal of Confederate statues in my home state in Georgia in the US. Additionally, I think we should fight for more Black and minority ethnic admissions. We just hit an all-time high for Black and minority ethnic admissions for undergraduates. And I think looking at what factors led to that rise is really important to try and emulate it on the graduate level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Okay, so Davica, if I'd like to come to you now. And again, the question is, with your place on the Race Equality Task Force, what do you plan to do? You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Robert. I definitely support what my candidate said, and I'll build on it, and especially as someone who has experience as a BAME officer and CRE rep. So definitely engage with MCRs, GCRs, and JCRs to work to establish content and conversation around race equality by fostering communication and programs through Common Ground and Uncomfortable Oxford. I've done it. It works really well. Revisit and restructure race workshops that the university is currently running, advocate for compulsory training for academic and administrative staff, especially Porter's Lodge, more financial support for BAME students from UK, international, and graduate students, because as pointed out, graduate students currently do not receive funding or race workshops as associated. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Davica, and thank you very much to all of you for your answers there. We will now move on to my tailored questions, which I have written on the basis of your manifestos. The candidates have not seen any of these questions beforehand, and if you would like to read any of the candidates' manifestos, again, please go to oxfordsu.org/leadership election. I'll start with you, Bella, and my first question for you is, in your manifesto, you're pushing for free intensive programs that provide skill certification for all graduate students. Could you clarify a little more what these might look like? You have 1 minute.
Thank you for your question. So one of the reasons why I came up with this idea after talking to so many other graduate friends is that usually the graduate students tend to encounter issues with employability and employment skills because we don't have enough we don't have enough evidence to show that what we've learned after just getting like the certifications, after getting like a master's degree, for instance. And so having like a new scheme where the university can organize like more intensive programs would give graduate students opportunity to show what they've really learned, and also to show the set of skills that would really benefit them for their future career, especially for massive science students who mainly focus on theoretical backgrounds. And so these would be really strong evidence of their well-rounded employable skills. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bella. Bethan, my first question for you is, you've talked in your manifesto about establishing a cross-college community, something you've touched on a little bit already. Can you explain to us a little more how you would work to achieve this? You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think working with the MCRs is a really important part of this, trying to make sure that any events across colleges are kind of organised together rather than just as separate bubbles. Working within departments as well to try and create a bit of a student community other than an academic environment would also be an aspect of this. There are often building up support within a subject is a really good way of kind of dealing with academics and meeting people of similar interests. The third part of this is, I mentioned in particular for international students who might be here all year round, trying to introduce maybe international reps within MCRs who can kind of establish that and be in touch with each other to create a community, even when students who are kind of from the UK might have gone home, and this means that there's still kind of really strong cross-college community there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bethan. Sinead, my first question for you is, one of the things that you've talked about in your manifesto was calling for long-term mental health reforms rather than what you describe as band-aid remedies. Can you give us an idea of what these might materially look like for graduate students? You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. So I've been in therapy for a very long time and had to leave therapy when joining university because I was obviously sending, I'm self-funded and all of my money was going to paying my term fees and accommodation. And so I really was relying on having a good welfare support, or not. We have I think, good welfare support. But I started using the counselling system, and I've had a couple of sessions. But what's clear to me is that it's quite task orientated, and it's focused on giving you quick fixes in order to make sure you are pushed through the system. And it doesn't really give you the tools that you need to make sure that you continue to be well once you leave. And I think that especially during a time like this, that's inadequate. And so for me, all of the funding that the university has been gathering for these types of support mechanisms needs to go into, yes, using those mental health hacks, but also supporting consistent, frequent sessions and someone that you can rely on and will be there for you, which is what you really want from therapy. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, Charlotte, my first question for you is, obviously you've laid out your 4 key platforms in your manifesto. Can I ask you though, what will you do to address the specific concerns of international graduate students, for example, on funding issues? You have 1 minute.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I think funding for international students is a huge issue. As an international student myself, I can relate to the struggles that we face. And there seems to be a lot of support, especially during COVID, for international students at the college level. And I think something that I struggled with was actually finding where that support is, especially as a graduate student applying to Oxford. I'm not sure which colleges provide the best support or where to find that kind of information. And so this kind of goes back to my communication pillar of the money is out there. Where can we find it? And if we can try and centralize all of these college funds so that students applying even further in advance for their graduate degree know which colleges are going to provide them the most financial support, so they know where to look and where to apply that best fits what they can afford financially. As well as for current students, when we have new scholarships come up, new funds, new hardship funds arrive, we can know where to find them. It's quick, it's accessible, it's easy. Thank you very much for the question. I appreciate it.
Davica, my first question for you is, one of the COVID-related issues which you highlight in your manifesto is about the post-graduation job market, something which a lot of students have concerns about. Beyond the networking opportunities that you talk about, what else do you plan to do for students in this area? You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Definitely going to highlight the networking bit again, because right now jobs, as soon as they get publicized, there are 500 applications right away. So networking is more important than ever. But beyond that, what I think the university can be doing to support is extra funds to support projects that the students want to do during COVID, which will obviously not only better their CV profiles, but also simultaneously benefit the university. Secondly, I think they could be introducing more programs for markets, not just within academia, but beyond academia, professional jobs, artistic jobs. They are already using seminars, but I think we can do more practical approaches, in the sense that creating more opportunities after that seminar, or for that matter, creating internships within the university. I had the benefit of actually being a part of one of the internships with the Bodleian Libraries, and it was not only super helpful, but I also got to work on race and diversity. So increasing opportunities that way. And the best part is my internship was virtual till I actually got the chance to enter the Bodleian Library once. But
Thank you very much, David. I'm so sorry I have to cut you off. That was 1 minute. Thank you all for your answers to my first question. We'll now move on to my second question, which is again based on your manifestos. Bella, my second question for you is, many students, graduate students this is, especially international students, are concerned about the costs of studying and living in Oxford generally. Beyond the COVID-related financial support that you talk about, what can you offer students with these concerns? You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your questions. Yeah, that's one of the things that I can relate so much after being 4 years of international student in Australia and in England. So what I've been experiencing is that usually students don't know where to find support when it comes to like cost living, and especially when it comes to house renting. And so in the manifesto, I put special support for the university for house renting reductions by percentage for COVID-19 pandemic in particular. But I also can see that colleges and university, they do provide a lot of more support if the student know where to find them. And so I would like the university and colleges all together can collaborate and push more clarification towards what supports out there, what financial support out there for the students, so they can actually find support before they arrive to Oxford, because usually the information is not that clear for international students to find out on the website, on the college website or university's website. So usually we only know about the support once we arrive to the.
I'm very sorry, Bella. Thank you for your answer. That is your 1 minute. Bethan, my second question for you is, how would you work with departments and students to establish exactly what a reasonable workload, which you talk about in your manifesto, would look like across disciplines at Oxford? You have 1 minute. Thank you.
So I would start by talking to students about what they are doing and what is possible, and listening to individual student voices and feedback to try and make sure that all subjects are kind of setting a fair amount of work. I would also, as part of the reasonable workload, ensure that extensions and kind of allowances are provided and ensured by departments, especially related to COVID, but also in general. I think there is a lot more flexibility, especially when it comes to mental health, needed by various Oxford departments. And by kind of creating these groups, gathering student voices, I would then kind of go to the university departments and try and have conversations with them about improving this. I've worked in the undergraduate committee at the Centre for Gender Identity and Subjectivity for History. So I've seen how kind of policy and formats got created there and how they worked on this. And I know that I can bring this experience forward in order to have productive conversations with university departments. Thank you.
Very much, Bethan. Davica, just sorry to repeat the last question, as I see we've had a slight technical glitch. Sorry about this. But could I just ask you again? One of the COVID-related issues you describe in your manifesto is the post-graduation job market, something a lot of students have concerns about. Beyond networking opportunities, what else do you plan to do for students in this area? Sorry to make you repeat this. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Robert. I would advocate for 3 things. Number 1, extra funds so that students can start their own projects. It will not only help the students get great experience for their CVs, but also simultaneously help the university with the project that they run, especially between graduates and undergraduates. Number 2, I would advocate the career services and work with career services to organize more events that are more specific to dealing with the realities of today. So jobs that will actually come up in the COVID job market and preparing students for it, not just in terms of academia, but beyond academia, like professional jobs, right? And the third one is more virtual internships that prepare students for further opportunities in a COVID market. I did a virtual internship on race and diversity, and I loved it. And I did it with the Bodleian Libraries. And I think it works. And I think we can create more opportunities like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Davica. Sinead, sorry for that slight interruption there, technical difficulties.
No problem.
The second question for you is, one of the things that you've argued for and you've highlighted already actually is that the SU needs to do more to push the university over the issue of sustainability. Can you describe any potential steps that this would involve from your perspective? You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Well, I know that there is already some initiative from the university side to put through a university-wide policy, and that's wonderful. But one of the things that I've noticed in my collaboration with our own sustainability committee at St. Anthony's is that often the rep will go to college and will make proposals. And at the moment, people are just saying, it's COVID, it has to wait. And I just think that that's ridiculous. There are absolutely things that we can do that don't cost money, reducing, reusing, and recycling. Those are things that people have more time to do because they are in their homes. And now students are taking on more burdens of cleaning who are living in college, and they need to know how to do these things. Our household is having issues with, separating and where to put the bins, and we have issues with our neighbors because we haven't been able to figure that out. But I think that college needs to get on board and just realize you can't just stop it now, because it's a crisis, not for now, but for like the whole world, and for our future. And yeah, you can't just stop it when you like.
Sinead. Charlotte, my second question for you is, obviously care is one of the key planks of your manifesto, and you talk about mental health in that. Beyond extending counselling services and introducing new counselling services that you talk about, how else will you seek to tackle some of the mental health problems that graduate students are facing? You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So one of the biggest things that concerned me when I started to do research about mental health care at Oxford was the eating disorder clinic wait time. Currently, it's approximately 2 years if you're looking into getting help for an eating disorder here, which is frankly unacceptable when most, or at least a lot of postgraduate degrees are only 1 year long. So one of the biggest things I want to do is target specific clinics. So not necessarily let's expand mental health care, because that's such a broad statement to make and doesn't really have any actionable items. As a policy student, I'm always looking for feasibility and how we can actually get things done that make real change. So for me, it'll be looking for areas like that need improvement and need extra funding, and looking at where can we actually put this money to make a difference. And then on top of that, how can we make sure that students know that we have put the money here and these things are available to them, so that they aren't wasted funds and that care isn't just floating around without any takers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Davica, my second question for you is, you're promising to build a stronger community between graduates, colleges, and undergraduates as well in your manifesto. How are you going to go about achieving this? You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I highlight this very clearly, that building a strong community is an essential part of the Oxford experience. And one short way I can do that is by centralizing and streamlining communication between the communities. I will work to build stronger networks in terms of the existing networks like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That's great. We strengthen those and we make sure that students know that these platforms are available for them to communicate on. But more importantly, if students feel the need for it, and I've already checked with the university officers, we have the resources for it. We build a platform that is exclusive to Oxford students, where undergrads, postgraduates, and all the other university students can actually interact on. That platform will support an Oxford-specific communication and lead to stronger ties between colleges, departments, and hopefully collaborations in the long run. So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Davica. That is the end of the questions that I have for the candidates. I would like to say to you all, thank you very much for participating in this hustings. I hope that all of you at home watching this have found this informative, and that it will help you when selecting your preferences on the ballot. Just to go over some of that voting information again, voting opens at 8 AM on Tuesday the 9th of February, and it closes on Thursday the 11th at 6 PM, with results announced on Thursday the 11th again at 9 PM. And to vote or to see any of the candidates' manifestos, please go to oxfordsu.org/leadership election. Thank you very much, and good luck to all of the candidates in your campaigns. Goodbye.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.